Throughout your teaching experience here at MCC, do you have one or a couple of students come to mind that you would deem as success stories that just have stuck with you throughout the years?
Actually, one of them currently works at Metro.
Okay.
And when they first stepped in my class umpteen years ago, it was a deer caught in the headlights.
Okay. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for giving us your time and your insight and expertise in the field. So thanks to our audience again. Another episode of Office Space, Office Hours, getting it mixed up here. Welcome to another episode of our MCC Office Hours podcast. My name is Art Brown, and I currently serve as the Dean of Information Technology. Happy to have with us today Mansel Guerin, one of our full-time faculty members in IT. Mansel, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Pleasure being here.
Thank you. So this, we're continuing a series. Our first few series or recordings are going to be of our full-time faculty members showcasing our various IT pathways. And Mansel, again, we're happy to have you here to talk about the IT support area which you support. Before we get into that, though, can you, Mansel, share with us in the audience a little bit about your background, what got you into IT, maybe a little bit of your professional background, and then what ultimately led you to your career here at MCC?
As far as IT goes, computers have always fascinated me. It was, again, older generation, it was the wave of the future.
Okay.
Fell in love with computers, started building computers, soldering our own boards, and that just compounded.
Okay.
Later found out helping others do the same, which of course led to teaching.
Gotcha. And I'm going to dig deeper, Mansel. So tell me a little professionally, what did you do specifically that you care to share that led up to your technical background leading up to your teaching profession?
A lot of research.
Okay.
A lot of research. Again, we didn't have the internet when it was a pipe dream.
Okay.
Then we got Usenet.
Mm-hmm.
Then we could start collaborating,
Okay.
changing ideas. But you were constantly researching how to build.
Mm-hmm.
The internet popped up. It opened doors that were previously closed. And through that, of course, everything started going computing. Offices were now computerized. If you wanted to get hired anywhere, you needed computer experience.
Okay.
For those of us who fell in love with it early, it was second nature by then. Unix was still the primary operating system in the business community. The other big one was spreadsheets. If you could handle spreadsheets back then, remember, no mouse. You didn't have a mouse. Everything was keyboard control. Anybody would hire you.
Gotcha.
I mean, they were always looking for it, and it grew. Then came web design, then came programming. COBOL became the next big. From COBOL, C, C++, C#. Now it's Python. Everybody wants Python.
Gotcha.
So the research is still there. You can't look at what's available today. You have to be looking at what's going to be needed 2 years in the future. And if you're doing that, you will always be ahead in computer science.
Gotcha.
And don't necessarily follow the trends either, because if you're living on the bleeding edge of technology, it changes.
It does. Gotcha. So that you're kind of leading into my next question. I mean, you've answered some of that, but my question was or is, what is trending? What's emerging? For a new individual looking to get into this space that might come to you. What more could you share with those individuals that are wanting to consider IT as a pathway, and what things should they be looking out for in the future?
Looking towards the future, security still.
Okay.
We are just now starting to take security seriously. Okay. Not only in the industry, but our privacy, our own personal security. AI is going to be the frontier. but I don't really believe AI is going to be as big as everyone's saying it is. Currently, AI is programmed by people. Who's programming the AI? If you look at the materials being generated, ChatGPT, all of these other tools, there are so many flaws in the materials that are being generated that it's pseudoscience. So, again, be careful with what the masses are saying. Double check anything an AI generates. Pay attention to the hardware aspect. Forever, this was going to be the new, well, and the best one I can give is Apple. The Lightning port is going to be forever. Well, we just found out that the Apple 15 is going to be USB-C
Right.
because of the new European standards that have been put in place. So all of a sudden, that which we were told is no longer true.
Okay. So, Mansel, I do want to, the purpose of this podcast too, these first few series are to kind of highlight some of our academic programs at MCC. So I want to go back a little bit. Tell me or share with the audience specifically what areas that you teach in here at Metro, coursework, pathways, and just give some oversight as to what that pathway can lead to for students looking to get into this space.
Currently, I'm overseeing the IT support pathway.
Okay.
In my opinion, it's one of the most underlooked pathways because, again, everyone is so used to, how can we put this? Customer service is dying, plain and simple. But in IT, think about it. There are no longer any manuals. You buy a new program, there's an FAQ.
Right.
How do you start? Well, you've got to type in the FAQ, how do I start? So the need for someone to be on the other end, either through a chat, messaging, or even telephone, that can walk an individual through, help them discover what they don't know so that they can proceed forward is critical. It's absolutely critical. Networking, love networking. Without our networks and the continued growth of our networks, the rest is icing on the cake. It's not going to work. It's just going to fall flat. Again, security. We have got to start looking at security and taking it seriously. Even your own personal security on your mobile devices.
Right.
Especially since more and more of us, I mean, this is life. We do our banking from here. We do our finances from here. We communicate with people through here. You want the world to have all that information? And yet we don't take the time to secure the main device that we use constantly. Programming. Without programmers, again, it falls apart. If you don't have someone writing the apps, if you don't have someone maintaining the apps, how are you going to use your computer? How are you going to use your phone? It's nothing but a piece of hardware then.
Right. Gotcha. So to summarize, so IT support, again, for the audience, you're introducing and you teach courses that are in networking, basic troubleshooting, help desk is another synonymous term we used to use. Can you add more?
As far as the IT support, some people call it help desk. Again, same principle. When you need help, you don't want to wait 3 to 6 days.
Right.
You need that help now. And the reason we call it IT support is because it's not just a help desk anymore.
Right.
You're actually, as certain jobs come in, you're helping to build a database. You may be part of the IT support team that manages that database, which of course brings in database management.
Right.
You may be the person who's writing the white papers. How are you going to repair this item? How do you use this item? So when you say IT support, it's not just a help desk anymore. It's all the features around that product that go to support the customer.
Gotcha. So to that point, can you, you touched on several of those, but if you could maybe just summarize or quantify from your vantage point. I know I have my thoughts, but I'm curious and I know we're kind of eye to eye on this. Specific hard skills, or we like to stress core skills that our students get coming out of our MCC program. If you could summarize in maybe 3 to 5 bulleted statements, what are core skills that specifically IT support? You mentioned some programming, interpersonal communication skills, with IT support. How important is that? Verbal, written communication, if you want to elaborate on any of those, just for starters.
Verbal communication is becoming a lost art, and it is one of the key skills you need. A lot of people enjoy texting, but texting takes time. Texting also loses meaning. I mean, think about how many arguments people have gotten over because they misread a text.
Right.
So verbal skills are crucial in all of IT, being able to actually communicate what needs to happen. Written skills, we've got to get back to core writing, okay? They have to be direct. You can't say, oh yeah, you're going to flip the thingamabob on the blue thingamaboober and it's going to turn on this widget over here. That doesn't work.
Right.
So it has to be direct. You can't have 10, 15, 30 paragraphs to say the power button's on the front, it's round, when you push it, the light's going to turn green.
Gotcha.
It's got to be direct. Professionalism in writing.
Mm-hmm.
It, again, is even more critical now because different communication styles can cause negative impact. So when you're writing, the more professional you can be, the better it will be in the long run.
Gotcha. So, Mansel, talk about, or kind of a shift a little bit, can you share with us, and this is a hot topic for some, but industry certification. So as it pertains to, again, what we focus on at Metro, teaching core IT skills, what is your perception and what value for someone coming into this space do industry certifications provide?
My personal opinion on industry certifications is they are actually more critical than a degree is.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example. When I first started with Metro, my degree had nothing to do with computer science.
Okay.
Because, colleges at that time taught general concepts. If you wanted to get hired, you were certified by the vendor.
Gotcha.
So that carried more weight. So when I started Metro, they didn't hire me because of my college degrees. They hired me because of all of my certifications through the various vendors. To a large extent, that still remains true. If you're going into networking, you have two options. You can become Cisco certified. Now you're vendor specific.
Right.
The downside to being vendor specific is different regions. Remember, we're global now.
Right.
When you're thinking about the world, yes, America, we are a country. That's where we live in. Still believe it's the greatest nation on earth, but they are Cisco. However, you go to Europe, Cisco's not as popular in Europe because they can be 3 to 5 times more expensive than other vendors.
Right.
So that's where you could go to more like a CompTIA Networking Plus certification.
Right.
They're not vendor specific, but they cover everything Cisco covers, but they also leave it open for the other vendors.
Right.
At the end of the day, you want alphabet soup behind your name. You want the degree,
Right.
but you also want the certifications behind it.
Gotcha. Cool. That helps. What about, let's shift gears a little bit. And you've talked about some of this, I believe, but misconceptions for individuals looking to get into IT. What are, from your vantage point, some common misconceptions, specifically for new students or individuals wanting to transition from Career X to IT?
That it's an easy degree.
Right. Elaborate.
This
Yes.
this is not an easy degree.
No.
If it was an easy degree, everyone would be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Robots would have already taken over every other job field there is, because everybody has an idea on how to make things better. If IT was better, you would already have programmed the app. We would already be using it. There's more memorization in IT than almost any other career field other than medicine. Okay. And again, it's constantly changing. What was true 6 months ago is not true today.
Right.
Okay. And what's true today will not be true in a year. We're already, give you an example, CPUs. We have pretty well maxed out the speed of current CPUs.
Right.
The power consumption, the heat that they generate is not worth any of the additional speed increases we can get. So we've actually gone back to a concept from the 90s, RISC architecture. Okay. Now, we're calling it a different name now, but we're starting to use GPUs instead of CPUs.
Okay.
They're faster, they're cooler, they use less energy, but the architecture has to change to support them.
Right.
So again, during this transition, you're going to have to memorize both. And it's not something you can just always go back to your book. Okay, if I wanted a book, I can get a library and hire a 5-year-old.
Right.
If I need it fixed, I don't have time for you to research it. You should already know. If I'm about to spend $25 million on upgrades, and you're looking at yesterday's architecture, and I buy it, and then I find out that all the programs that we use to support our business won't run on the old architecture, I spent $25 million for nothing.
Right. So I want to extract something from what you said in this last session here. If I'm putting myself in the seat of a new prospective IT student, and you made the comment that the technology is changing so rapidly, which we both know, that can be daunting and intimidating. And so, again, I'm kind of rehashing a lot of what we said already. What could you say to help ease that anxiety that a prospective student or someone wanting to get into the space, that memorization, that can be a challenge for some folks, or just how do I stay current, or, this is a constantly changing field. If we're wanting to encourage and expand this IT workspace or workforce that we have, what are some additional words of encouragement that you could help someone that's on the fence about if this is the right pathway for me?
I would ask them to ask themselves a question. Do you love it?
Right. Okay.
If you don't enjoy IT, if you don't enjoy the concept of IT, choose another field.
Right. That's fair. That is fair.
It's like anything else in life. If you don't enjoy it, find something that gives you joy.
Right. And is it fair to say, and I've said something similar to other prospective individuals thinking about this space, equally important if you don't love to learn and to stay current. I think that goes hand in hand with your comments that you have to love the field, but you have to love to continue to have professional development, personal growth to stay relevant and current in the space. Would you agree with that, or what's your thoughts?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Again, I guess the easiest way to put it, when you approach IT, it's an adventure.
Should be. It should
Okay. It's always a new chapter to the adventure. So if you don't enjoy adventures where you will never know the ending, the
Right.
true ending, maybe this isn't the field for you.
And that's
Okay.
okay. But we,
It's how again nicely. Math has not changed in the history of math.
right,
2 plus 2 is still 4.
right,
I don't. 1 minus 1 is 0. Now, how you do the math through algebra, through trig, through calculus, through quantum mechanics. Okay, that's going to change a little bit.
right.
But the basic concept of math is 2 plus 2 is 4. IT isn't that way. We started with, oh my goodness, we can process 8 bits. And now we've got quantum computers on the bleeding edge that make 8 bits just look like kindergarten.
Right.
So it's going to change. The adventure is going to increase. If you like adventure, you like moving forward, if you like technology, IT is the way to go.
I love it. And again, it's not for everyone, but to the points that you made, if someone checks those boxes, character traits, and if they love to do, they love to learn, they love to grow their knowledge, and they love to challenge themselves, I think it's an excellent field for almost anyone. So let me ask you this question. Just reflecting on everything you're saying, is it a fair statement to say, and I kind of keep rehashing this, that even with all those changes you mentioned in the IT space, foundational skills, I think, still will stand the test of time. So, an operating system is an operating system. Core networking functions are core networking functions, regardless of how the technology changes. I feel like that's what we pride ourselves on at MCC, is that we do our best to teach students solid foundational IT skills.
Absolutely.
And would you concur that if students walk away with those core skills from us, they're going to future-proof to some degree that a network is still going to remain a network regardless of the topology or technology that's being used? Any thoughts on that?
Digital processing is digital processing. Analog processing is a different methodology. Actually, there is a wonderful YouTube series on the difference between digital and analog processing. Right now, there's no blend, and I don't foresee a blending of the two for several years down the road. But if you don't understand the concept behind digital processing,
Right.
the foundation of digital processing, you're basically stuck.
Right.
Okay. Programming is still going to remain the same. There's going to be a flow.
Right.
Now, how that flow goes, it will change with the language, but there's still a natural flow
Exactly.
in organization. These are core concepts.
Right.
Another core concept, breaking it. Okay. We used to say you have to break it to make it. A new computer would come out, someone would spill water into it. Okay, so it's dead. Let's take it apart. How did they do this? How did they organize to keep the heat away? Because again, the basics remain the same. Too much heat, your processor and memory fail.
Right.
Your circuit board, how are they laying out the circuits? The basics remain the same.
Gotcha.
It may micronize, but the basics are still the same. You've got a CPU, some type. Doesn't matter what the name is. You've got memory.
Right.
You've got storage. You've got input. You've got output.
Right.
And if you understand the concepts and how they interact,
Right. Should be good in theory.
in theory,
You should.
it doesn't matter what operating system you pick.
Right.
Doesn't matter which piece of machinery you pick up.
Right.
The basic concept remains the same.
Right. And I love that. For me, I think just re-echoing that sentiment to our students is that, frankly, there's question in the value of higher education these days, and the fact that we can stress that we provide that foundational skill to anyone. Your best bet is starting at a program like MCC in our IT department if this is your chosen field of study. Just wanted to re-echo that.
There is one other aspect to Metropolitan Community College that a lot of students don't see.
Okay.
And one of those aspects is here at Metro, we have had a tradition of reaching out to the businesses.
We do.
What are you going to be looking for in new employees? Not today,
Right.
but in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, and 10 year down the road.
Right.
In working with the businesses directly, our students are better prepared for the actual business world. And corporations, when they hear Metro, they're more apt to hire someone, especially if they have been part of the process in the education.
Exactly. And we pride ourselves on making those contacts. We've mentioned this is the month of September. We've got a career fair coming up. Very excited about the number of local employers that have signed on because, to your point, I think they understand the value. Our students are getting applied learning that they can hit the ground running in many cases. So your points are exactly right. So, Mansel, back to you. So, with all these things we've discussed today, what do you do personally to stay current on the technology? It's a constant evolving space. What are some tips that, or maybe some resources or tools or techniques that you use to stay current in this field?
One, I have my own computer lab. It's not something that you're going to build overnight. You're going to piecemeal it together over months, years, and decades. But with that, I take everything apart. Okay. Constantly, again, staying on top. Reading. You have to research. Some things you can research. A lot of things, unfortunately, you have to go off of rumors. Okay. And Apple is a big one. They try to keep everything for their September release every year. Right. But once it's released, now you've got to go do the research, and not from TikTok or Instagram. You have to go look up the actual white pages, okay, the actual manufacturer's document on what they did and why they did it. You have to pay attention to, again, what industry are you going into within IT? Right. Are you a member of any of the professional organizations? Do you attend any of their free seminars? Because there are free seminars every month. Right. If you're fortunate enough, you can get time off for work and you can afford it. Are you going to any of the large size businesses like ComSec, okay, or SecuritySec? Right. Are you going to any of these and getting out into and building your own network of people, right, who you can interact with? Okay. So you have to stay, again, hungry.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
Best way I can put it.
Okay. What about, so can you reflect, Mansel, for us throughout your teaching experience here at MCC, do you have one or a couple of students that come to mind that you would deem as success stories that just have stuck with you throughout the years? That
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there any that you can recall that you can share with us?
There are several I can share, but I won't tell you their names because I don't have their permission to.
Fair.
Actually, one of them currently works at Metro.
Okay.
And when they first stepped in my class umpteen years ago, it was a deer caught in the headlights.
Okay.
And one of the first things they told me was that education and studying was not their forte. They really didn't expect to go far. But again, when you can show them the passion behind it, obstacles can be overcome to a certain degree. And again, they're now working here. I have another student, former student. They actually work for Cisco directly. Okay. They started as a programmer and found out, programming isn't my forte. I don't want to sit behind a computer and but I love the hardware.
Okay.
So they kept going. They got their degree in networking. They wound up transferring to a 4-year university, became an engineer, applied at Cisco, went in at one of the lower level, and has worked their way up. So very excited about that. And then just the everyday people who education has benefited them.
Right.
You know, I will never be able to do this. Yes, you will. And they now do. They have a family.
Right.
They're supporting their family. They like their job. It's not just, oh, I have to go to work.
Right. There's a passion. Yeah.
They have a career.
Right.
There's a difference between being employed
Right.
and having a career.
I would agree. So, Mansel, let's talk about mentorship. You kind of alluded to it in your last few comments, but as new students are coming into your classrooms, for those that catch your attention, and hopefully they all do, but, by human nature, we gravitate to those students that show the passion and desire to want to be in your space. What can you do to provide extra mentorship to individuals that, really show that hunger and passion early on in your classrooms?
You just be a human.
Gotcha.
I have a student right now. I am mentoring them. But the first thing to becoming a mentor is actually having someone who wants one.
Right, exactly.
If they show no interest, again, old saying, you can drag a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Right. So
Right.
how does that process work for you? I make assumptions, but have you had students come to you directly to say, Mr. Guerin, I'm really wanting to succeed in this space. Will you help provide me some mentorship or guidance?
You bet.
Gotcha. Okay.
You bet.
Okay.
Or I'll have a student that says, I'm having difficulty because I don't know where to go.
Okay.
Do you have any recommendations on a first step?
Right.
Yeah, first step, I would attempt this. When you're done, come back and see me if you want.
Right.
One of the biggest keys to being a mentor is you have to give the mentee the right to fail. It's not teaching. You're not a parent. You are a guide only as long as they want you to be the guide.
Right.
When they stop asking questions, you stop.
Right.
Because if you don't, again, let's go back to a parent. Do this, do this, do this, and it has the negative effect.
Right. Fair enough. Okay. So to kind of wrap this up, what I feel that mentoring is super important. As the dean, I get students that approach me all the time with similar questions, specifically as it pertains to the next step, acquiring that first job. And I usually tell students, it's great that they've come in contact with me, but for future reference, get to know that instructor that's in your classroom. They're going to know you better than I will. I can look on a transcript to see how they're performing. But to lead to that next step of professional networking, any additional thoughts? I think a lot of the same sentiments you've already shared with us, but from your professional perspective, how important is networking? My favorite phrase is, it's not so much about what you know, but who knows what you know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Knowing who to know
Exactly.
is important.
Okay.
But it's, again, the old saying doesn't fly anymore. And the reason is this: you have to be able to talk the talk. You also have to be able to walk the walk.
Right.
If you can't do those two things, it doesn't matter who you know.
That's true.
Because they're going to introduce you,
Right.
and then you're going to fail,
Right.
and it's going to make them look bad, which means they'll never help you again.
That is true. And IT is one of those areas you can't fake it till you make it.
No,
Because it will catch up to you very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yes.
one of the biggest issues with mentoring is time.
Right.
Kind of like you said, what do I do to stay on top? That eats up a lot of time.
Right.
Now add in what I'm required to do as a teacher. Now add in what I'm required to do as an employee, which is different
Right.
than what I do as a teacher.
Right.
Now add in what I'm required to do as a faculty member. So I have 3 jobs at one time.
Right.
Plus I have to keep up on my own education. And time for mentoring becomes very, very, very small.
It does.
15 years ago here at Metro, it used to be reversed.
Right.
You were primarily a faculty member.
Right.
You were paid for X amount of time. Further education was brought in as part of being a faculty member. It was already allocated. So you had more time to mentor more people.
Right.
Unfortunately, we now do more with less time.
True.
And then add in mentoring on top, you can burn out real quick if you're not careful.
I get that. And so I guess to summarize that, I would say to potential students that are listening, everyone's time is valuable. They need to be serious if they approach you or any other staff or faculty member for that mentoring because, again, your time is valuable and, you're here to provide a service to the community, but we do want students listening and to anyone that respect people's time and respect, that your knowledge and skills and abilities to help them move their career are super important. So,
Absolutely.
gotcha. Well, Mansel, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for giving us your time and your insight and expertise in the field. We will definitely have you back again soon. I know you got some other projects you're going to be working on for us. So thank you so much.
bet. My
Thanks,
pleasure.
Yeah. So thanks to our audience again. Another episode of Office Space. Office Hours, getting it mixed up here. So we do want you to tune back in soon. And again, Mansel, thanks for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.